Hello, and welcome to episode 178 of Checkpoint Chat. Yeah, 78 of Checkpoint Chat. My name is Alessandro Barbosa. I'm joined by your sun-kissed Matthew Figuera. Guess why? Because the sun is baking you from the outside.
Wow.
I actually don't think I need this light. I have this Elgato light on, and I'm like, do I actually need this right now?
So for those of you who don't know,
it's so warm right now.
It's a Sunday afternoon, and I was telling Alessandro before we hit record that I don't know if we've ever in our 178 episode recorded on a Sunday afternoon at this time, because if you're watching the video, if you look at this lighting, it's pretty good.
It's
okay,
just
I don't have a nice Elgato light, but generally my camera feed looks a bit washed out. I do look a bit pale though. I mean, can't really.
I think you just need to get out more.
I mean, whatever, man. I ran 10Ks today and I swam. What more do you want from me?
I thought you were away. Did you go away to a wedding and wake up early and go for a run?
No. So I went to a wedding. Okay, drove home drove home. Had lunch on the way. When we got back, we had lunch.
Did you stop at a Wimpy?
No, I went to Bamble, little Portuguese. Let me tell you, we're going to divert the story for a hot second. Those pastéis, fresh out the oven, chef's kiss, the best, okay? I got home and, I like to hit a milestone. Well, I like to aim for about 1,200 Ks every year, okay? So
I know, because you're a sadist. It's fun.
Because I just like doing it. So I was short some mileage despite having run yesterday. So I told Lenska, it's overcast. When we get home, I'm just going to go for a run. And I did. And when I got onto the road, the clouds disappeared and the sun came out, and I baked on my 1 p.m. run. It was great.
I was about to say it was not cold today. That's why I was confused.
No, it wasn't cold. It was just overcast. So it was like bearable.
But so 1 p.m. So you were running in a nice sweltering, maybe 28, 29 degrees.
Fantastic. Sun. Because when
Jesus
I got
Christ.
home, I climbed into the pool. Let me tell you, there's very few feelings that rival that of the ice cold pool.
Did you even get undressed, or did you just walked in and just walked into the pool?
Took my shoes off and my shirt. I mean, come on, I have some class.
Okay. I mean, if I was you, I think after that I'd be so dehydrated I wouldn't have the mental fortitude to be like, I'm just going to plop myself in this pool.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else. Like I would have stripped down and I was like, listen, the pool right in front of my in-laws,
your house. You do what you need to do,
bedroom. Man. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's what you need to do. I don't know your relationship with them. I'm not here to judge.
Having an afternoon nap. Look out, there's me, just spread eagled, about to dive
just
into
hello, just
well, hello there.
Well, hello. We've lived together for so many years. I thought you finally.
I thought we could
to
take
know
this,
that I am this nudist.
I thought we could take this relationship to the next level.
Mm-hmm. These are the things Lenska didn't tell you about me.
Wow. I swim in the nude. No,
then next thing, Ella's just there fanning herself,
No, she's usually in the pool going, yeah, we're going to swim now.
I do love that. I love that you have a dog that will just take herself for a quick dip in the pool, and you never have to worry about her because she knows how to get in and out.
Even when no one's home, you rock up, walk in, and then if she's wet, you're like, okay. I guess it was hot. She took herself for a little dip today. Smart.
That's
dog.
So
Smart
cool,
dog.
Man. That's so cool. There needs to be like a daycare, or like how people take their kids to swimming lessons like when they're like 2 or 3 years old. There needs to be that for puppies. Just so that they're all comfortable with swimming and they're all comfortable getting out the pool, and then you never have to worry about that.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. My brother's dog, Max, little Staffy, my brother years ago used to bring him to my mom's house to swim because, it's hot. Little Staffy wants to cool down. And we used to force him into the pool, like, listen, you're going to be so grateful for this. Just get in. And he used to hate it. He used to it was funny because you'd put him in, he'd almost sink. Like, how do you not know how to swim? like what dog doesn't know how to swim?
He's just so paralyzed with feet. He's just like, nope.
It's like, nope. Until on a day, I don't know what happened, like an actual switch flipped where this dog was like, you know what? Swimming is the best shit ever. And he just launched himself into the pool and did laps. And now, all these years later, my brother and them have since moved to a place where they have a pool. This dog will spend hours act like
Just doing
hours
laps.
to the point that he is sore and stiff that he can barely stand, just doing laps in the pool because he loves it so much.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so
I love that.
So dogs, man.
I love that. Yeah,
Put them in the pool.
we've got one dog that only the one dog that likes the pool, and if you throw a ball in the pool, he'll go and get it and come back out, and then he'll sit there and wait for you to do it again and again. To the point where we have to stop because like on the way back to swimming to the steps, he'll start taking in water into his mouth, and you'll be like, okay, you're tired.
Yeah,
you're gonna drown yourself here. Let's just not. Yeah.
Let's just relax. Okay.
Yeah, just
calm
chill
down.
out. I thought for a hot second you had taught Max the dog to use the cool foofy slide you used to have at your old place.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
You're just chilling in your room and you this and it's just this dog.
That was a good time. I miss that slide.
I enjoyed that. It was a bit precarious getting up there, while you were wet, but it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
It's the best of times.
Didn't see anyone yeet themselves on the face, or
Listen,
pretty sure it happened once or twice.
One Christmas, we had a cousin who didn't let go past the pool.
Oh no, that's somewhat worse.
So she went and then, like with great force, didn't hurt herself, yeeted to the end of the slide and then came back and then landed in the pool. But you can imagine.
And then she sank
hilarious.
just like Max.
Until one day she's like, swimming's not so bad.
Letting go of the foofy slide isn't that bad.
She's busy doing laps in a pool. Like, who let you in?
When did you get here?
Come on. Yeah.
We could have upped the security here. Damn, jeez. Yeah, that thing was fun. Although I do feel like you had to be very strict with yourself. Be like, if we're drinking, we're not going to do this. This is a bad time.
My brother's bachelors.
Oh, good Lord.
No, my my brother was fine. Okay, very pissed, but still fine. Didn't hurt himself in that way. But one of his friends fell from that tree and landed like not on his bum or his arm or whatever. Landed on his tailbone. Now, I just want you to imagine how sore
on his coccyx. Like, oh my God.
Now, the thing is, he was very drunk. So he was like, haha, laughed it off. We were like, oh my God.
The next day.
You're going to hate yourself tomorrow. Yeah. I mean, and it's not like it's, chances are, unless you land on your head, you're not going to die if you fall from up there. It's not high enough.
It's not super high, yeah.
Yeah, but to fall like that 2 meters or 2.5 meters.
I mean, I remember hurting my coccyx just going ice skating and just like falling on my ass on the ice. And that's like barely half a meter. So I can only imagine a 2 meter fall. And that hurts for a while. Every time you sit down, it's just, no.
Yeah. No thanks.
But I don't think, I only visited your place and used that slide like once or twice, but I was fully sober both times because I don't think I would have coped even slightly drunk.
Too young to die.
Yeah. I remember at your bachelors, you going down this like water slide and you just whiplashing your head against the ground.
That was, can I tell you, my bachelors was before then the best time. Until that point, I was like, ow. I'm hurting.
I remember when you went down and the noise, and I think it was me and Kat up at the top, and both of us were just like, ooh, because we heard that.
My brother was
like,
at the bottom
he's
and
fucking sore. Like,
genuine concern. I'm like, he's like, are you okay? I'm like,
yes, it's because it made like a cracking noise. It was
a thing of like 100%, I could have been concussed, for example. But
you really could have been.
But I was like, no, I'm absolutely fine. But good Lord, my neck, the week that followed was so sore. So sore.
The noise your head made on the floor. And it was completely innocent because literally you were meant to go down the slide and I think you just slipped.
No, do you know what happened?
Backwards, like,
you know what happened? Can I say this? Don't think out of proportion. When I say I jumped like, yay, onto the slide, I did like the most baby of hops. Like literally I just did a little hop so I could like land on my bum and go down the slide. Except a little hop I landed on my feet and my feet just went. Whoop.
I mean, this slide was the equivalent of like rubbish bags and water on the floor.
Yeah,
so
but I mean,
there's no fucking purchase for your feet there. You're
no,
done.
but I mean, yeah, it was a dumb thing looking back in retrospective. But at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna jump down. Yay, long slide. And I was like, walking back up, I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. That was so sore.
I think we all walked away from that slide afterwards. Just like, yeah, this is maybe a bad idea. This is not the greatest idea in the world.
Whatever. Then you guys still maybe do some other bullshit. It's like,
yeah, we put you on an obstacle course, which is real fun.
He's good. Okay, now we're gonna make him do an obstacle course.
Yeah, if you were concussed, you could have died.
I heard after that, because the parameters there were, you need to do this obstacle course in less than 5 minutes or you drink or something, whatever the time was. And I flew through that obstacle course.
You did. My arms way faster than I thought you would.
My arms were so tired. I did everything. I finished. And it was like, you just missed the time. You just missed it. Just missed it. And then I learned later, I don't know if it was you or my brother, someone's like, no, you actually were well within time. It was just
Dude, you did it in like 2 minutes maybe. It was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. Like, I think we were just like, we grossly underestimated his energy levels or something. Like,
yeah, it was a good time.
It was a good time.
I still survived.
That feels like just yesterday, and it was like almost 3 years ago now.
Yep. It's almost 3 years to the day, actually, because our 3-year wedding anniversary is coming up. So, yeah. Time flies.
That's crazy.
Time flies when you're slipping on slides.
3 years. That is sure.
Yeah,
you know what else is 3 years old? This podcast.
More than 3 years. Good grief.
More than 3 years old. Check my chat. Talk about video games. Video games that are thankfully not older than 3 years old. Not on this episode, at least. Matthew has been playing the Ring of Elders, or the Elden Ring. That one.
Oh God, hang on.
This small indie game from Software. I'm not sure if people have heard of it, but sometimes we have to do the work and highlight these small games for people to check out here. We're a small podcast, but we never know. Maybe
I was just
we'll
going to say, you'd think anyone who listens to this podcast for the first time will be like, who pays these people to speak so much shit? Joke's on you. No one's paying us.
Yeah, we speak shit for free.
Okay,
that's how you know it's quality.
I'm gonna try something. Yeah, it's probably not gonna work because it's my Twitch stream. But
okay,
just to see if we can have some background footage.
Are you gonna play Elden Ring live?
Hilarious! Look, okay, just pretend this video viewers. Just pretend this little weird cuts isn't here.
Thankfully, the cameras are blocking your death count, which is real suspicious.
It's super
interesting.
high. Yeah, cool. Just so we have something to keep on in the background. But yeah, We've been playing The Ring of Elders, Elden Ring, which, for those of you who don't know, from this not tiny studio called From Software, whose claim to fame are titles like Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro. Which,
never heard of them.
If you've never heard of them or played them, are notoriously difficult games, but very well designed, lore-packed, and just fun games to play if you can wrap your head around the very unintuitive systems and combat and stuff, which, when you wrap your head around, then be like, yeah, it's actually not that bad, but whatever. I digress. Elden Ring is their latest title, which for all intents and purposes functions, it's kind of like all three games took lessons from each other and then just birth out an open world variant. Although I will say
it just came out.
Just came out. I will say out of all those games, it obviously probably closely resembles Dark Souls the most. For obvious reasons. Like Bloodborne and Sekiro are very different sort of games for that studio.
Yeah. I think just in terms of like gear and
aesthetic and a whole lot of other things.
And leveling up, it's more there's more options, so it's more of a Dark Souls-y type of game.
But that whole series of games, they were for the most part linear. I mean, even I use linear loosely because there's usually like a critical path and there are some side areas you can explore, but it really is you going from A to B to C to fight one boss to the next boss, whatever.
There's a defined structure. You can only enter this place from this place, type of thing. Yeah.
Whereas Elden Ring is their first like proper open world game, and it's very much a case of they don't tell you where to go at all. You literally just dropped into the starting area called Limgrave, in this typically FromSoft world that has no context. You don't know why the hell you're here, and you can just explore at your own leisure. And yeah, it's real good. I mean, this is funny because I've only played 10 hours. I mean, 10 hours is a fair bit of time to put into a game, but I really have barely scratched the surface. And having read reviews and chatting to other people playing the game, this game is dense. Like there's a lot of content here, and I think despite me still being early days, what really not sets it apart, but it really, to me highlights why it was praised and why it has reviewed so well, is that none of this content feels like it's just been copy pasted. You don't walk into an area and go like, oh, it's kind of looks like that last place I went to. Chances of you poke around a bit, you'll walk into a cave, find a completely different kind of boss to what you fought before. And yeah, if you're a fan of that good Dark Souls combat, it's that, but like on a much bigger scale. So yeah, I'm having an absolute blast with this game, and I can't wait to just keep chipping away at it more. There's lots to see and do.
I haven't started the game because I feel like I need to wrap up other
you need
open world commitments.
You need time to sink into this game. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to be playing this game as like the only game and not bouncing between it and other stuff. And so, because of that, I've been taking a lot of the game in through just social media and just general like osmosis, I guess. And the one thing that keeps coming up is like, everyone says this is the first sort of open world game to kind of understand the lessons that Breath of the Wild taught like 5 years ago. And like in your experience, what sort of similarities or improvements does From make on an open world structure like that? I guess obviously the first is like they don't tell you anything, just like Breath of the Wild is like, you've got this open world, go for it, But what else?
I think, I think we'll get to the what else, but just on that alone, it's funny because a lot of newcomers to the game, or a lot of people coming to the franchise for the first time, have said, we know the game's difficult, but it's weird that there aren't quest markers, for example. And spoiler, from games never have quest markers. They just straight up put you in, and you kind of have to figure out where to go, through signposting and other things. But I think that comparison to Breath of the Wild is very apt, purely because why Breath of the Wild to me and many others was so, sorry, pardon the pun, a real breath of fresh air, was the fact that you were just dropped into the world and there was nobody telling you like you have to go there. I mean, you were given, there are these 4 divine beasts you have to go sort of liberate. There's the main castle, and that was it. That was the only setup, and you just kind of get to do what you want, however you want. And I think that game also just puts tools in your hands to just mess around and just have fun. So this Elden Ring definitely does that. If the map comes up at any point on the feed, just notice like how big that is, and I can zoom out. It is huge. There's just lots to do, and there's still lots that I need to explore. But I think what probably for me is one of my favorite things about the game is the stories that come from it. Purely because no one's experiencing this game the same way, like at all. There's very few people that I've spoken to, like literally no one, and I know a lot of people playing this game that have had the exact same experience I have. I mean, I'm streaming this and I have friends popping in who are playing the game saying like, oh my God, I didn't know this boss existed. And I'm like, but I'm in the starting area. And it's not a thing of like, how did you miss this? It's just like, yeah, through sheer coincidence, or even time of the day in this specific instance was a fact of I happened to walk into this place at nighttime and the boss only appears at nighttime. So it's just been fun chatting to people saying like, have you found this boss? For for example. I'm like, no, like, where is that? Show me where it is, whatever. I mean, on stream, it was a thing of I fought a boss and people are like, oh my God, where is that? Open the map. Like, I want to go explore that area on my map. Oh, I haven't been there yet. Okay, cool. Like, I went east and you've gone south, for example. There's just that factor, which is, it's fun to be part of the zeitgeist of, how are you playing the game? Have you done this yet? Oh my God, have you found this secret? You should go that way. Or I don't know. It's just on that front, it's different to, for lack of a better comparison, like say a Ubisoft, stereotypical Far Cry or Assassin's Creed, where you very much
the paint by numbers open
paint
world.
by the numbers thing of like, how many people are really sharing those stories? Like, did you go?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, look, it happens obviously, but not to this level where it feels like everyone's doing something differently, and it's just it's unreal how. It's kind of weird. It'll be kind of weird to play a game that isn't like this now. Like I was telling you before the podcast, that Breath of the Wild did its thing, and a lot of games have tried to learn from that game. Make it more open, a little bit more flexible. But it feels
feel like there's been a single open world game that has learned the right lessons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like a good example, like a good recent example, is Horizon Forbidden West, where you've just told me you hit a part sort of like halfway through the game, not halfway, but a fair bit into the game, where now the map has opened up and it's like you can go do any of these 3 objectives, which isn't a Breath of the Wild thing, but it's very much, it feels like they're trying to give you that freedom of like, you can do this in any order you want, despite us still like, almost holding your hand.
They're trying to pretend you have agency.
Exactly.
Games like these are literally built on the back of agency.
Yeah. So. But it feels like Elden Ring is the first game I've played in the last 5 years where it gives me that sense of exploration that Breath of the Wild did. Like, there is a sense of satisfaction, or there was in Breath of the Wild of, let me go climb that mountain, and then, there's a shrine there, let me paraglide down there. There's this weird there's a Korok there, there's a thing I can do here, whatever. Elden Ring very much gives that same thing of, let me just go to that empty fort over there. Oh, shit, there's a mini boss here. And it's just that on a huge scale. Like, I've put in 10 hours. I haven't even left the starting area. I haven't ticked off everything in that starting area. And I know people who, like, we know reviewers, for example, whoever reviewed it for IGN, they didn't sleep. Took them 80 hours to finish the game.
Something hours, yeah.
And then other people who reviewed it were like, well, I've put in about 60 to 70 hours into this game and I'm not close to finish, but like, I've had a fantastic time.
And I'm sure even with the, in the case of like 80 to whatever hours, there's stuff there that they haven't found, because there's
100%, yeah.
There's just stuff that you can outright miss. And I mean, FromSoft games have always had this. I mean, if you look at Bloodborne, you mentioned Cainhurst Castle. If you look at Dark Souls 3, you have God, what's that city with the dragons? Whatever. I forgot. I literally just played that game and I can't remember that city name. But yeah, there's like whole areas and whole bosses that you straight up like. I played Bloodborne twice before I went to Cainhurst Castle, and Cainhurst Castle feels like an entirely new level, and it's got one of the coolest bosses in the game.
Exactly.
And it's just like,
it's just there.
if you just don't go there, then you don't go there. And what I think is so interesting about FromSoft is like, they don't care. Like, they do not care if you see everything or don't in this game. And that's part of the charm. And I feel like other open world games are so concerned about you seeing everything that they make sure that you see everything. And through that, they strip away the sense of discovery, because you're not making those organically. They are telling you to go here to do this, go here to do this, because we want to make sure that you have fun in these specific ways in these specific places. Whereas FromSoft games, and now Elden Ring, just to a whole new degree, is like, this is a world, you have your fun in it as you wish, And I'm not surprised then to hear people like, Kervin, who mentioned earlier this week that this is sort of scratching a like Elder Scrolls Skyrim itch that he hasn't had before. And I like, even though Bethesda open world games are still that paint by numbers, like go here, do this type of game, they are still filled with like big open spaces and very dynamic events.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, to be honest, I feel like that's where Breath of the Wild got its inspiration from, was like, how can we do this better? You know what I mean?
No, exactly. It's
So it's really cool.
I saw a tweet today. I can't. I'm gonna absolutely butcher the the word for word, but somebody was basically saying like Elden Ring feels like something that came out 10 years after Skyrim and 5 years after Breath of the Wild, which is like you said. It's basically saying that Breath of the Wild took inspiration from like a Bethesda game, and Elden Ring has now taken inspiration from the two from Breath of the Wild and before it's Skyrim, whatever. And it's just like it's just a good time. I think
to me it's the first one to really learn from Breath of the Wild. Like everyone I feel like open world games, they looked at Breath of the Wild, they're like, what do people like? Paragliders and and being able to climb on everything. And it's like, no, you have completely missed the point of what is actually good. In these, what makes Breath of the Wild good? You've completely missed the point. Those are just tools to aid the exploration. The exploration is the thing that, is interesting.
Yeah.
So, but I'm curious to know, like, with this open world structure, do you feel still sort of like, part of the reason why I like these games so much is that the worlds like kind of fold in on themselves, and there's so much attention to how they're laid out and how they're designed. And I think that's the thing, like most people are like, oh God, in an open world, that must be next to impossible. What's your experience with that sort of thing?
So I do get that. One of my favorite parts from any of the previous games is a thing of you walk through a castle, then you open a door and you're like, holy shit,
oh my God,
how did I get back here?
Yeah.
So I've only had one instance, and I'm obviously not going to go into it for spoiler reasons, but I've had one moment where I was like, I can't believe, for context, I was just like, I can't believe how big this game is. Like, I'm still early days, but I can't believe they've done this. And I know that on that front, it will pay off in certain ways. And you're welcome to pin this, and I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about when you've started the game yourself. But yeah, I think you're right on that front. They might lose some of that magic, but I think they more than make up for it, in other ways where it is just a thing of there's just lots to see, lots to do. And I think what's quite interesting is that, I don't know if I said it here, I think I did say it on the recording here, but a lot of people criticize, well, not a lot of people, but a lot of newcomers criticize the game saying like, where are my quest markers? Like, I don't know where to go. But can I tell you, it's actually a completely different experience where I open the map and it's not littered with 4 million different icons. It's literally just a map with some things I've seen. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to run in that direction and see what I encounter. And it's just nice to do that without feeling, not that I'm OCD by any measure, but there are parts of me that will pull open a map like, oh, I'm right here, I might as well do that. I'm right there, I might as well do that. I'm just going to methodically tick these things off. And you'll find with me, I often start many open world games doing that before I reach a point where I'm like, I don't need to do it. I'm just going to, I'm going to mainline the rest of this game because I've had my fill and I just want to like see the story to its end now. But again, like I've only played Elden Ring for 10 hours, so the charm is definitely still there where I can't wait to just poke around and, explore to my heart's content. But I don't know, maybe 40, 50 hours, I have the same thing of like, this game's too big. It's actually too much. I want to just kind of see it to its end now. But the thing with From games is that they are inherently very addictive. There's just something incredibly satisfying about the combat where it's not like overly complex in that you're doing, millions of combos or whatever. It's literally you walk up to an NPC, you hit them 3 times, they die. You get that little sound of like, whoosh, like you've got some XP here. You're like, oh, that's nice. Let me just keep doing this for hours and hours and then level up. And then, oh, wow, I just picked up a new weapon. And how does this weapon work? Now that's on, like, sorry, I'm going to bounce around a lot here, but like you mentioned, in Bloodborne, for example, there's all these hidden areas, and that's in an enclosed game, quote unquote. I can't wait to see. I mean, we've already seen how the community is picking this game apart, finding secrets, doing things, but I wonder what other shit from have hidden in this game where it's like, yeah, if you go stand on this altar and do this not taunt, this pose,
or whatever
whatever,
the hell.
you'll teleport to this hidden part of the map, something. I mean, and even on that front, like I've had things happen to me where I end up somewhere in the map. I'm like, oh my God, how did I get here? But I do think that they've laid in a lot of stuff here. And the nature of the games is that it's fun to replay. So I imagine people, as long as this game is and as big as it is, people are going to replay it. You know, they'll take different classes, different builds, or they'll just do a new game plus with the existing build because it's just fun to, you know, see how much better you are, how good are you at fighting some of the bosses, and yeah. So we'll see. Still early days, but man, I'm hooked. If you like From games, I don't see you not liking this. Like I just can't imagine somebody who is an existing fan turning around and saying like, "Oh no, this isn't what I want."
This is not their thing.
No, it's. I mean, I imagine there will be those people, but yeah.
I mean, I've seen actually more people this time around who are brand new to the series getting into it. Like, I've enjoyed seeing Taryn.
Taryn's like proper hooked.
Taryn is, and it's interesting because her partner Gareth is like super into these games. I remember back in the day, like before Bloodborne came out, he was playing it at Rage, and I was watching him play, and that was at the time when I didn't understand these games. I was just like, this looks cool, but I've tried this many times. It's not going to click. So yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, Coven's playing it. It's cool to see new people giving it a go. And, I totally get it. If you tried it and you're like, this is the same Souls bullshit that I've tried before and it's not clicking with me, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to like this game. Like,
you don't have
totally
to, but
fun.
I do think to their credit, like, look, the easy mode arguments, we could sit and argue back and forth for hours. Like, should it have one? Should it not? Do they want to compromise their vision? X, Y, Z, whatever. I will give them credits on this department in that there are tools there. To their credit, there are tools that make the game easier. To their discredit, if that's the right expression, they don't make it obvious. Like, at no point, this is the perfect example. Okay, when you start the game, I'm sure you've seen this discourse on Twitter. They plonk you in the game, and then you can walk to a door and enter the big open world, or there's a pit to your right that you can fall into. Okay, have you
It's
heard
that tutorial thing?
It's
yes. Yeah.
Only From would put their tutorial in a pit.
Yeah.
Where the experienced players would go, "Oh, I can fall to that ledge. Oh, it's a tutorial." Cool.
Yeah.
Only they would do this. I'm like, it's kind of funny, but it's not. I'm like, just give people the tutorial. Like, just make it a little bit more obvious. Like, I don't know, but
no, I get that. Like, yeah, I mean, there is a limit to how obtuse you should be, and maybe there are better ways to go about that sort of thing. Like, onboarding people shouldn't be a challenge in itself.
But even that aside, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think previous games might have had summons, but this game, it's a feature. It's the thing of you can summon wolves or people. I'm not talking players. Like actual
summons seem like a big thing in this game.
And I'm like, that's like someone who wants to have the hard experience. Like, I'm specifically avoiding that stuff, not for any reason other than like I really want to have the hard experience. Like, I crave that. But it's interesting that we've got friends like Craig who was watching me fight this boss over and over again. He was like, I beat this boss first time. Why didn't you just summon the wolves? I was like, because I don't want to. But it's nice to know that there is that tool
option's there. Yeah.
That option's there. Like, if you find that you're someone who just doesn't click with these games because they're too hard, like, there are tools. I know they're completely obscure.
Well, I think they're a lot less obscure now because, I mean, just coming off of Dark Souls 3, you need to have met certain NPC conditions for them to become summons in boss fights. So it's like, you don't even know those steps prior. Like, you can't summon shit.
But if you looking at Elden Ring going like, I've tried From games before and they're just not for me. And again, like, to get summons in this game, it's also an obscure thing. If you don't walk out and someone goes, oh, push X button to summon, it's a thing of you come back to a place, you meet a person and they explain to you. It's so not clear, but like look it up. If you're wanting to make the game easier, figure out how to do the summons. And even that aside, like the fact that it's an open world game, I think I've said to you and others that with games like this, it's interesting. How do they balance difficulty, right? Because, you know, in their previous games, again, somewhat linear, they know by the time you get to this boss, you should be about level X and, you know, we'll balance it accordingly. Whereas this game, it's a matter of, no, you can go anywhere. You could get to a boss that's overpowered or you overpowered or vice versa, whatever. So, like, you really can dictate your experience here. Where if you walk to a boss and they're too hard, just go explore somewhere else. Like the game is balanced different. Like the areas don't necessarily, you know, tier off difficulty specifically or intentionally. It's you might walk into an area that's super easy, and its neighboring area might have enemies that are 3 times harder. You know, it's not like they have this deep system, not to my knowledge, where, you know, they want the difficulties sort of escalate as you play the game. Like you can 100% go to areas at the beginning that are too difficult. But if I've also seen on Twitter where people are like, man, that boss that everyone's been struggling with, I beat it first time because I was just overpowered. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like I completely get it. It's from our obscure and it can be infuriating. But I do think in this specific instance, like they've actually put some tools there, you know, to help players. And the fact that it's an open world, you can really dictate. Like if a boss is too hard, just don't fight them. Try it once or twice. But like it's not for me. Go somewhere else, get some levels, come back. It'll be a lot easier. So yeah, that's my view. I don't. I'm not going to get into the easy mode thing because you could put it in. I feel, but it's
I mean,
it's up for debate.
I was listening to GameSpot managing editor Timur Hussein on a podcast this week, and you know, outside of probably you, he's the one person that I converse with regularly that is the most into these sort of games. Like he's reviewed most of them for GameSpot. Like, and he made a very good point. He's like, you know, if they want to put in an easy mode into the game, they should. Like they can put one in, and I will not touch it. But people who want to touch it, they can play it, and I don't give a fuck. Like how you know, did you complete Elden Ring on hard or easy mode? No one gives a shit.
Matter, no
one cares. But by the same token, if From Software feels it is critical to their vision to not have one, then their creative vision for that should be respected in the same way.
Yeah.
That isn't to say that the game can't be more accessible. There can't be provisions for people with you know, who need options to help them play games to have those in there. You know, there's a very big difference between accessibility and difficulty.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go hand in hand, but you know, none of the times not so much. So, you know what, at the end of the day, if you're someone who gets mad at someone online because they want to be able to play a game on an easier mode than you, then you are part of the problem. But by the same token, I do think difficulty is intrinsic to what makes these games so appealing and is so important to their sort of vibe and their flow. So I can understand from a creative standpoint why that's not, you know, something that From wants to look at. So
yeah, but even on that, like, so there's no explicit easy mode, right? But you'll find people who will tweet out saying like, I fought this boss using the summons, whatever. And immediately you'll 100% guaranteed you have one person saying like, oh, you're not playing the game right.
Oh yeah, I mean there was this whole debate already, like people being like, oh, if you're using magic, you're playing on easy mode. It's like, who the fuck cares?
That's my thing. I'm like, who cares? Like, you know that I've chosen not to play magic because I want to have the hard experience, but you best believe I'm not going to give 2 shits about somebody else. It's like, I've gone mage. I'm like, cool. If you're having fun with the game, good for you.
Also, if you're complaining about things that From Software has put in their game, like people are playing the game with tools that From Software gives them. Like you can't come up here and be like, that's the wrong way to play the game. Fuck off. Then if that is your view, then by the same token, you should have zero issue with people playing the game in a broken state, like using a cheat engine on PC to completely break the game open. Because you are basically saying, unless you play the way I play the game, then you're playing it wrong. Then who says your way is correct? Like,
no. It's an interesting debate, but you can't please everyone, unfortunately.
Oh, of course not. So, you never will. This is the internet. You will never do it. Yeah.
Impossible. But yeah, that's nearly 30 minutes on Elden Ring based on 10 hours. Just you wait till we've put in dozens of hours. You need to wrap up your shit so we can get into this game.
I'm very stoked to. Speaking of wrapping up my shit,
you.
I was going to say Horizon, which should actually be the name, like Febreze, but Horizon. Horizon Forbidden West continues to. I guess it's in the tape deck of my PlayStation 5. Listen, I'm enjoying myself with this game. Like, I'm playing it and I'm enjoying the combat and I'm having a great time looking at the really, 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 really pretty vistas. And I still have my issues with Aloy. I don't know why, but she's written really strangely in this game. Like, she's very off-putting, very... I am better than everyone else type of like attitude, which is very standoffish, and I'm not like super vibing with it. But also I think, especially with all this talk of Elden Ring and, people bringing up Breath of the Wild again, it's just made it very clear to me that Forbidden West doesn't really improve that much on Zero Dawn, which is, 5 years ago. In terms of like age. And I think at the time, Horizon Zero Dawn came out at the same time as Breath of the Wild. And it was, at the time it was a very easy comparison to make, be like, wow, Breath of the Wild's world is so much better and richer and more, in tune with exploration and stuff. And Zero Dawn feels like an open world, a good one, but just an open world that is familiar. And I feel like now that sort of like hand-wavy excuse just doesn't apply. And Forbidden West just feels like the same type of open world. Like, you were talking now about how you're enjoying in Elden Ring the sense of exploration. Like, you go around somewhere and you have no idea what is going to be around a certain corner. And that gives you a real sense of, discovery and authentic exploration. Whereas Forbidden West will litter your map with question marks to kind of prod you in the direction of here's something interesting, go there. And everything around the periphery of those question marks is empty. There is nothing for you to discover there. There are resources for you to gather, but there is absolutely nothing for you to do, firstly, because even the areas where machines are located are on your map. So there's no like chance encounters with the machine somewhere. And there's no sense of exploration because you are just going towards icons on a map. And that, it feels harsh to single out Forbidden West with that when it's literally, this is Ubisoft game 101. But at the same time, I just feel like, there is a certain bar of quality and to an extent innovation that comes with a Sony exclusive. Like, you look at a Ratchet and Clank and it is a visual showcase for the PS5. Really like pushes the limits of that. God of War introduced, like, it completely redesigned what that franchise was with an emotional story. It also had this really cool like one cut camera type thing going for it. And I just feel like Horizon is just like, we've got really beautiful looking vistas and robots, and that's it. It's just like, other than that, it is it is an open world that you understand and know and are familiar with, and that's what it is. So from that regard, I'm just like, I'm a bit disappointed with it because I expected a bit more, especially just from the trailers. Like, the trailers made this big deal of like, we've expanded climbing, but it's like, you still can only climb where the game wants you to climb. So I can count on the number of times on my hand that I've actually used that glider, because there is no point in using it. Because if the game doesn't want to let me get to somewhere, it will not let me get there. So what's the point of climbing to a high perch and then seeing like, oh, there's like a rock face there, I'm going to glide there. I glide and I get to there, and then Aloy doesn't grab because the game says I can't grab on this thing. So like,
I hate it so much.
you see what I mean? This is exactly why I say that open world games just haven't learned the right lessons from Breath of the Wild. They're like, we gave them a hang glider, now they can glide anywhere they want. That's not the reason why that mechanic is interesting. Like,
yeah, I was just going to say, it's funny because I think everyone watching any trailer for Horizon Forbidden West saw that hang glide and thought, oh, thank God. They've learned from Breath of the Wild, like you can jump off a mountain and glide, and yeah, you can do that, which is cool. But that's not the lesson we once learned from Breath of the Wild. It's a thing of, like you said, why can I not climb every damn mountain? I'm not talking for superficial reasons. I mean, like, Breath of the Wild made it interesting. You climb a mountain, and when you work your butt off to get to the top, and when you get to the top, you're like, oh, there's a shrine there. Oh, there's another thing over there. Oh, cool. Like, let me mark these on my map and explore them at my own leisure.
Exactly.
Horizon, my God. Just disclaimer, I am loving this game for the reason that it is Horizon Zero Dawn on a grander scale. Like, I loved Horizon Zero Dawn, but I completely hear you in that there's been like one or two optimizations, but otherwise it's essentially the same sort of game. Where they've just not learned the right lessons. Like, traversal is a joke.
Traversal is awful in this game.
Like, there are times when I'm a very patient gamer. I mean, we know this, but there are times and instances where I've fallen off, or Aloy's just not grabbed a thing, and I'm just like, why the fuck not?
Yeah, I do not understand why the platforming in this game is so bad. Like, I switched off the game the other night because I got so angry at this fucking thing. You know exactly. It's like cauldron with water. Yeah. It's like flooded. And if you fall, you got to start this whole sequence again. And it'll be like dumb shit. Like, you will be hanging on a perch, and below you is a thing that you can obviously stand on. And you will press square to drop, which alone has taken me like 10 hours just to adapt to. I'll press square to drop, and then 1 time out of 4 times, Ayla will just not attach to that fucking thing, and she'll just fall. Yeah. And I'm just like, what? Why? Like, every other time she's grabbed it. Now this time she hasn't grabbed it. And it's like, sometimes you'll be right next to another perch that you can grab onto, and you have to wait for the animation for like her arm to stretch out so that you can jump. Because otherwise, if you press X there, you're going to jump backwards. And then sometimes she just won't outstretch her arm. And you're like, am I doing something wrong? Like, and you'll realize there's this really, really fine window on the analog stick for that to activate. Yeah. It's just like, it feels awful.
This is why I joked last week. I'm like, if only Sony had another studio that does traversal right. It's like, surely,
it's crazy because we both come off of Uncharted, and it's like a night and day difference. Like, but that's how those two systems work.
Again, like, I know you can't copy paste a system from one to the other, but surely at some point you go, the biggest criticism of our first game was that people couldn't climb shit. We're gonna really ramp it up. Let's talk to a studio that, you know, that we actually like not mates with, but we're part of the same umbrella. Surely if it's a big enough a deal, we could convince Sony to like, let us have, you know, a time with one of those specialists or whatever, just to like make sure we nail it in our game. I mean, it's not uncommon in across other companies to have, you know, studios almost like helping each other in certain specific things where they specialize in.
I'm almost certain there is some like, I'm sure it's very, very strict and locked down, but there almost certainly is a program where internal Sony studios play each other's games and give feedback. Because like, why wouldn't you, like you said, why wouldn't you get the opinions of the people who've made some of the best games ever in PlayStation history to be like, what do you think of this? You know, we are trying this. What do you think of this? And I just cannot believe that through the entire process, someone didn't look at this and be like, this platforming needs to be a bit more, you know, forgiving is the wrong word because it's not challenging. It's just frustrating and annoying.
It's very frustrating, yeah.
Like, someone must have looked at them and been like, you need to maybe widen the windows on like what is acceptable as the person is putting their stick in this direction. So that means they want to go in this direction. But really what they mean is this, you know, give a bit of leeway, a bit of like almost like an analog dead zone. Like, you know, if you're within this window, then... and there is a platform within that window also, then clearly they are trying to grab onto that only fucking thing that they can grab onto, you know?
I mean, it's just
so weird.
I think what you and I are both trying to say is that for a AAA Sony title, it's just like such a weird like misfire to leave have this in a game like this.
It also feels very unpolished for a Sony title. I want to preface that because Sony titles come out in like some of the best conditions possible. There are very little things that are wrong with them at launch, stuff that most people will see, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say that they're perfect performance-wise or whatever, but those are the nitpicky things that not every person sees. But I'm pretty sure anyone playing Horizon, and the patch notes indicate this, there's like issues with icons not disappearing from the map. I'm having that issue, like those fire gleam icons do not disappear from the map. So I have no idea which ones I've done and which I haven't.
Which is ridiculous.
There's like ridiculous item pop in. I see it all the time. I just see vegetation popping in directly in front of me. And like normally I wouldn't really notice that, but it's very distracting. And I mean, just the fact that they had to patch out like Aloy's voice lines, the way she just repeats the same voice lines over and over. It just feels like it came in a bit hot. I don't know. It doesn't feel like that level of polish that a Sony exclusive gets.
It's weird though, because like I acknowledge all of these criticisms. Like I've had them myself, but like I'm still really enjoying the game. And like. Again, I just want to stress that, like, I really do think the game itself is good. Like,
I do as well. Yeah,
it's just, for lack of a better description, it's a bigger, better Horizon Zero Dawn, which is not a bad thing. Like, I really love that game, and I think if you enjoy that game, chances are you will love this. It's just weird that it doesn't. There's no sort of evolution really. It's just, you know, they've improved some things, but they've left some of the bad stuff in as well.
I think this to me is the game. And I think, maybe this was bound to happen because you've seen people talking like this online for a long time. Everyone's saying, these Sony exclusives are good, but they're safe. Each one of them is a very, very safe game. And I think this is the game that is finally, like I've always acknowledged, I'm like, yeah, they aren't pushing creative boundaries, but they're still like top tier experiences.
Yeah.
And I think Forbidden West is a top tier experience still. I think if you are taking away the Elden Ring and the Breath of the Wild, this is still up there as some of the best open world you can have.
The better open world
with what an open world is ascribed to being good nowadays. But at the same time, I think this is the one game where I'm like, yeah, this is kind of just the same shit. And like, I'm kind of like, I'm enjoying this, but also it's not really doing like loads for me. Not like the first game. When the first game came out, I was like, this setting is cool. This combat is rad. The open world is like got all these biomes. And yes, it's a very checklist type of thing, but I really enjoyed it. This one, I'm just like, yeah, I'm having a good time, but boy, I can just see the seams. I can see everything working in the background, and this open world is just not fun to explore. And like, I'm trying my best to engage with as much side stuff as I can because I'm trying to see if there's better stuff there. But I think I might just end up mainlining this because I feel like either that or I'm just going to one day be like, I don't want to play this anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's just,
I will say that's sorry, just last thing before we bounce off, but the side quests in this game, definitely a step in the right direction. Because
they are a lot better than the first game.
I have like very vague memories of the side quests in the first game, but I'm pretty sure I missed most of them because I was like, this is just, it's not great quality stuff. It's like almost again, lack of a better description, paint by the numbers, like, oh, I need 10 herbs. Please go collect these things. Oh, you need, please kill these machines causing some havoc. Where these side quests, like I've said before, and I have seen other people make the comparison where they almost feel like Witcher 3 level of, they just stand out. There's just a higher quality to them, which is cool.
They are good.
So, tick on that front. You really got that right.
And like what I think what makes them also quite nice is the facial capture and the just animation on individual characters and conversations is really fucking good. Like, I think one of the big criticisms that Cyberpunk 2077 got was like, its Keanu Reeves is pretty good and its main story characters are pretty good, but when you expand out of that, everyone kind of looks kind of the same and kind of shit.
Yeah.
And I think this is definitely not that. These side characters here look fucking awesome.
Yeah,
like everyone looks pretty good.
I think visually I know we're going on about this game, but visually, you cannot flaw this game because it's really, really
Also,
some
just
good stuff.
design wise, like I got to Plainsong recently. I'm like, holy shit, this city is cool.
You walk in,
Like,
there's some people doing some quiet going, you're like, this is
yeah,
some good
it's
stuff.
really, and just like you can tell, like I can look at each person and be like, okay, this guy's part of the Osteron tribe. This guy is, or this woman's part of the Kasha. This person's part of Plainsong, and they each have such a strong visual identity. I think the art direction of the game is really strong, and
It's
like
super good, yeah.
technically it comes out really well. It's just, boy, it's just let down by its open world. I think that open world just
That
fucking
platforming,
sucks. Like
boo.
it's really shit. Like navigating it and just like there's no surprise to that world. Like absolutely nothing. It is really, here's an enemy camp. Oh, here's a fire gleam thing, which, oh, guess what's behind it? Yep, a little lootable cache. Like,
Huzzah.
who fucking who? Like, who cares, man?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
it's good.
Anyone listening to that's like, oh my God, these people hate Raz.
Yeah, you know,
don't
every
hate
time
the
someone
game.
asks me about it, because they're like, oh, are you playing Forbidden Waste? It's great. And I'm just like, it's okay. And they're like, what? Everyone says it's so good. And I'm just like, no. I can tell you now, this will not be in like my game of the year discussion. It won't even be there.
You know, it's funny is that, I mean, I'm not the first person to make this comparison by a long shot, but the year Horizon came out, Breath of the Wild came out like literally a week later or a month later, whatever it was, and it completely overshadowed because people are like, oh my God, Breath of the Wild, best thing ever. It's just hilarious and sad for Gorilla that 5 years later, same thing. 1 week later, Elden Ring comes out and everyone, I mean, not everyone,
to be fair, they had a much more of a chance this time.
No, for sure.
Elden Ring is making waves because it is like, oh my God, finally someone understood what Breath of the Wild was good at. And it's like Horizon could have been that, but it just isn't. Yeah.
Good time.
Anyway, should we move over to games releasing this week?
Yes. I guess so.
We're looking at
now that
games
we're done
from
shitting on, I'm joking.
March 5th to March 11th. There's just a handful of games, but some nice ones, some ones that I didn't even know were out this week. Have a Nice Death, Steam Early Access on March 8th. I am super stoked for this game. This is that one.
Many games, man.
This is that one that looks like it's like a, I don't know, maybe Death's Door and Hollow Knight people will dig it. It's got a real Billy and Mandy vibe to its roguelike style.
Hold
you know
up.
which
I
game
know
I'm
exactly
talking
which
about.
one this is.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the one that got their trailer during the Game Awards, I think it was.
I had no idea that was out this week. Have a nice day.
I mean, okay, it's out in early access, so it's not done yet.
Okay. No,
you
but
can
still,
give this a go.
Still,
yeah. That's very cool. Also out in early access, Steam Early Access, Core Keeper, March 8th. Chocobo GP.
Oh my God.
Coming to Switch on March 10th. So
on Mario Day.
If Mario... Oh my God, I didn't even realize that.
On Mario
Chocobo
Day.
GP coming out on Mario Day
Killer.
to take on Mario Kart. Can you believe... The fucking balls on Square Enix.
Goddamn
Jesus.
Square.
My goodness.
Can't believe they've
I've
done
seen
this.
this thing getting like very up and down reviews. Some saying it's a really good card game. Some saying it's not so great. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
You can race the Chocobo.
Nice.
Submerged Hidden Depths coming to PC, PS4, and PC, PlayStation, and Xbox March 10th. No Place Like Home coming to PC on March 10th. Aztec Forgotten Gods coming to basically all platforms: PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch March 10th. And then WWE 2K22 coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox on March 11th. Go suplex someone and see if they glitch through the ring like
My
all the
goodness.
other WWE games.
Shots fired.
That's about it.
That's it.
I think Jesus Christ. I mean, I look, the next game has a date of March 15th, and then I scroll down and I'm just like, how much is scheduled for half a month? It is obscene.
Too much. It's just too much.
Crazy.
Stranger of Paradise, the game of the year. Final Fantasy Origin.
Chaos. Absolute chaos.
I'm very curious to see how that game reviews because
I'm curious because
it got a lot of shit for its initial beta, which I think was very bad from what if I
was that
remember correctly.
demo that came out?
The demo.
Yeah.
But I think since then they've made a lot of optimizations and people are like, yeah, this game actually could be pretty good. So Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, speaking of games that got a bad reception, I don't know if you've seen, but Babylon's Fall came out this week. It's that platinum game with Square Enix that is, wow, people are just like, this game feels like fucking 10 years old and it is awful and it looks like shit. And
I have no idea what the
wow.
game is, but I have seen the discourse.
I have not seen such a widespread, common, like critical lambasting of a game like that in a long time.
Until
it is
10
really people
ago.
are just like, fuck this shit. Yeah. So interesting. Interesting.
Shall we get to game news?
Yes, indeed. Also, not like too much, I guess. I mean, we should preface the world is still kind of a fucking crazy place at the moment with, you know, what's happening in Ukraine and Russia. And part of the news kind of touches on that. Many companies have basically said, we are done. We are not going to sell games, services, software, hardware, et al. In Russia. And the story we have here is specifically Microsoft suspending all new sales and products and services in Russia. I mean, this is not just Xbox. This is like Azure servers, Microsoft laptops, Windows, all of that gone. But they aren't the only ones. CD Projekt Red, creators of The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk, have said they're not going to sell their games. Neither will their digital distribution service GOG. I know that EA has suspended sales there. I can't remember if Ubisoft is one of them. Sony.
There's a lot, yeah.
Sony Sony didn't make like a statement, but they were straight up like they quietly pulled Gran Turismo 7 away from the PlayStation Store before it launched there. Nintendo has stopped processing transactions from the region. It's widespread.
Yeah.
Like, and you know what? People say that it only affects Russian citizens, but at the end of the day, all of this is just part of more and more pressure on governments or on people to kind of look as to why things are being done. So yeah, I fully support any company that wishes to make this action. And by the same token, I get if Epic Games were basically like, we are not going to stop sales to Russia because it just affects people wanting to play games there, and I get that as well. So
it's interesting to see that there's been such a widespread response from such big companies. Like, I mean, Epic's big, obviously, but the fact that it's Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, it's like, damn. And that's just gaming.
Big.
It makes me wonder. I mean, we're obviously careful this specific industry because it's our hobby. I do wonder what other industries and companies have done exactly the same thing. Of just stopped support
just based off of what I've gleaned on, news websites, Visa and MasterCard have like stopped processing transactions in the country. Swift, which kind of controls like international trading. So they're a body that, companies subscribe to, but a lot of companies and countries, a lot of countries have essentially pulled their support of Swift. So like on countries that don't support it anymore, you can't transfer money from that country to Russia or vice versa. So it's big. Like this isn't just coming from nowhere.
Yeah.
Unless you're the ANC, then you're just fucking all for Russia and you can go get fucked.
I even locally, I was quite surprised, to be completely honest, that DSTV pulled. Is it a Russian channel?
So they didn't. This is what's funny is like the ANC and ICASA, our regulator, who is meant to know this shit, doesn't even grasp what happened. MultiChoice's stuff is all syndicated from Europe. And so the Europe provider, they stopped providing it. So like MultiChoice had to stop providing it because, they're not getting anything from there. But ICASA doesn't. ICASA, the people who are meant to understand this oversight don't understand this. And of course, our government doesn't either. But it just shows you their kind of like allegiances. So, fuck them both.
Onto
political on this podcast right here.
Onto equally political. No, I'm kidding. Well, I suppose just on that vein,
just on that. Stalker 2, the highly anticipated sequel to Stalker, was in development or is in development at GSC Game World, a Ukrainian studio based in Kiev, and unsurprisingly, they have kind of put all development on hold as they kind of, try and aid all of their developers who are now in this country that is being war-torn. In their video, they said, our country is forced to fight for its existence again. Seems like this is the price of freedom. This video is an answer to how are you guys question. Now we are striving to help our employees and their families to survive. The game development shifted to the sidelines, but we will definitely continue after the victory. Glory to Ukraine. So
Yeah.
that is, I mean, the game was delayed to December already. That you can fucking kiss that release
December
date goodbye.
Yeah.
And, obviously,
2023 game if
ever, you know what I mean? I hope they manage to sort themselves out because that's hectic.
Yeah. Well, on to other news and another games not launching news related. Halo Infinite Co-op won't launch in May as planned.
Yeah, this is I feel like sentiment on Halo Infinite is quickly turning. This current season has been going on since launch, and it's just obviously far too long.
Yeah,
but I guess launching in December and needing to give your team a break has kind of like forced this issue. But the sort of light at the end of the tunnel was always like, okay, the season's going to be long, but when season 2 comes out, it's going to be with co-op and with potentially the Forge, which is like their player creation.
Is season
stuff.
2 lining up with this?
It was meant to. But now, now in the latest update by Joseph Staten, the director of the project, basically saying, what did he say here? All this means is that we will not be able to ship Campaign Network Co-op on May 3rd at the start of Season 2, but we are still aiming to deliver Campaign Network Co-op later in Season 2. And we will share a release date for that and for split-screen co-op as soon as we can. So, that said, 343 Industries still has a goal of shipping Forge with Season 3. So Forge is only coming in Season 3.
That's, who knows when that is.
Yeah, I feel like this is about. I know people who have been waiting to play the campaign of this game until co-op comes out because that's how a lot of people grew up playing Halo. So this sucks.
There you go.
This really sucks, and this just compounds into the issues that I feel like Halo Infinite is having with this current season. Like I've fallen off of it because it just I enjoy the gameplay, but there's nothing in the current season that is kind of make me go, oh, I need to complete dailies or whatever. Yeah. So
well, there we go. In a unrelated news, Pokemon's next game are Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Revealed a week ago. So this was revealed like Sunday evening last weekend. Last
weird
weekend.
Time to reveal a brand new core Pokemon, a brand new generation of games and Pokemon.
I don't know. I feel like we have too much Pokemon now, to be completely honest.
I'm kind of with you on that.
It's just weird that, look, I understand why Emerald and Diamond are always brilliant.
Pearl.
It's Pearl.
Brilliant.
I
Brilliant
always say
Diamond,
Emerald.
Shining Pearl.
I always get those two mixed up. I understand why the remake launched followed by Arceus because they're set in the same sort of region, same sort of area of Pokemon, right? But it just feels weird that so Scarlet and Violet revealed last week is coming out end of this year, I think.
Yeah, they said holiday 2022, I think.
I don't know. I just feel like even these last two games that just came out, there's no breathing room. I feel like I played Pearl and then 2 months later played Arceus, which is exactly what happened because they launched that close to each other. And I've had my full of Pokemon. But to now think I'm getting a whole new gen end of this year, I don't know. It's just weird because I really liked Arceus. Again, I feel there are some things that could improve, but overall, like that is an evolution of the Pokemon formula, like the one I want to see. It's not clear if Scarlet and Violet will have those features, but why would they? Because it's not necessarily being developed by the same studio at Game Freak.
Well, who knows? I have fucking no idea. Yeah.
But even so, like, how does this game look at the success of Arceus and go, we need to incorporate that system into our game, which is
That's
launching
exactly it. This is way too close to
it's-
Arceus to like take any critical feedback from that game
exactly
into account.
to incorporate it into its core functionalities. I don't know. Sword and Shield was fun. Like I had a fun time with it, but I don't know. It just feels like they're just shipping these out way too quickly. But again, like I'm not the biggest Pokemon fan. I'm not the target audience. Maybe hardcore Pokemon fans are looking at this going, hell yes. It's been 2 years since Sword. Well, when it launches, will have been 2 years since Sword and Shield. So I'm ready for a new gen. Like I don't know.
And also, I mean, you look at this. I'm just been watching this trailer again now with you if you're watching on the video feed. But like, this just like kind of shows how there is no time between Arceus and this to take into account some feedback, because it looks rough. Like those environments look bad. Again,
Yeah, it's
like just really poor. So I don't know.
Do you like the starters though? That grass
The starters
kitty?
are cute. Yeah.
Look at that.
The weed kitten is cute. The
How
fire
dare you.
crocodile is
It's a
rad.
grass kitten.
And the comrade duckling is
the
also
Donald
pretty cool.
Trump duckling. Cool.
No, I think the starters look pretty cute. And, you know, people get super hyped over new generations of Pokemon because, you know, it's new monsters, new things to look out for and stuff like that. And that's cool. But like, yeah, I agree with you. I just can't get excited. I mean, I didn't enjoy Sword and Shield that much, if at all. I still need to play Arceus, but like this doesn't really move the needle for
I'd be
me at all.
very interested to know what your thoughts on Arceus are, because like I really think that is a step in the right direction. For
Yeah,
Pokemon.
I think everything I've heard of Arceus makes me think that's the Pokemon game that I'm really going to enjoy. But yeah, another mainline one. And there's already things like seeing reports saying, oh, they might go back to the traditional way of catching Pokemon. I'm just like, fuck's sake, man.
Please no.
Are you fucking joking? Like, it just, I don't get it.
No.
I really don't get
It
it.
makes me want to cry. Don't even say that. Arceus's best feature is how seamless it is to battle and to capture Pokemon. Why would you take that away? I don't know.
You see, but this is what I mean. It just feels like Game Freak is not learning from any of their games. They just put out the same thing and it sells super well, as it always does. And they go, see, sold super well. We're doing the right thing. And I'm like, you know, at the end of the day, cool. Maybe that's fine
I guess.
for Nintendo. But boy, it just makes the whole thing feel stale and boring.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway.
And last piece of
cool
news.
logos, though. Do you like Scarlet and
those
Violet
are
there?
nice, yeah.
Pretty cool, yeah.
I like the name as well. It's just easy to remember.
I think it
Scarlet and
feels like a
Violet.
nice traditional thing.
Best believe in 3 years I'm going to be like, yeah, I played Pokemon Indigo. You're like, it's Scarlet. For goodness sake. Like, come on.
100% is going to happen, yeah.
Music streaming service Bandcamp joins the Epic Games ecosystem.
Yeah.
This is...
the great
I love this.
conglomeration continues.
The bar line, whatever this is, an unexpected acquisition because it is completely left field. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Epic Games bought Harmonix not too long ago, and they bought them saying that they were going to aid in like some audio stuff for Fortnite, which got a lot of people angry until you kind of like realize that, hey, they are hosting tons of like concerts and shit in there. So that actually kind of makes sense.
Okay, from that perspective, yeah.
Yeah, but Bandcamp is like a musical distribution service, you know, sort of like a Spotify in a way. So it seems a bit, you know, different in that regard. But essentially this will give Epic, you know, access to all sorts of audio, I assume. I guess there's, you know, other deals in place that kind of like stonewall that. They can't just use all the music on Bandcamp in their games. But there is definitely a strategy that is being worked towards with these acquisitions because they kind of all relate to each other. So, yeah.
Cool. That's news.
Cool. Yeah, cool.
Very
news.
slowish news week this week.
That is news. Should we get to questions?
Questions.
If you would like to send us a question, you can email us checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can also message us on all our social platforms, Checkpoint Chat, at Checkpoint Chat on Twitter, Facebook, on pretty much anywhere.
My goodness.
What have we got on the tape deck
all over the place
this
tape deck.
week?
We have, let me just check here.
It's
we
getting dark.
two,
I've
I
just
know.
realized.
Look at my face. We have 2 questions on Twitter from Meg. So number 1, if Alessandro hadn't met Matthew, would there still be a checkpoint chat?
No.
No, probably not.
Probably not, no. I mean, the only reason this thing started was, there might have been a different podcast. I nearly started
reality.
Yeah, I nearly started a podcast with another friend of mine, and then he ended up moving to China, so that happened. Yeah.
And you know what? I didn't move to China.
He was so against the idea that he had to move to another fucking continent to get away from me.
You're like, hey man, do you want to start a podcast? It's like, yeah, I'll give it a think. Next week, I'm moving abroad. Like,
it's kind of how that happened. Legitimately, he was keen. Like, we were thinking about it. He came over for like a, let's talk about how this thing's going to work. And he's just like, oh, I'm moving to China. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah,
he said, massive opportunity abroad. I can't turn it down. Meanwhile, tells his girlfriend whether she exists or not. It's like, I just want a podcast with that bozo.
Nah, shame. He's a good dude. But
and then you picked up the phone as your second choice and listen.
It's just like, Matthew, listen. I'm subbing you from the bench here.
And then I'm like, wow, okay, cool. Let's talk. Wow, you've really thought this out. I can't believe this.
It's also sudden.
Not at all how that happened.
And then close.
Question number 2: if you had the chance or were forced to, what other career path would you pursue?
If I had the chance or was forced to, those are 2 very different things. I guess if I was forced to follow a new career path, like maybe I lost my hands and I couldn't program anymore or something like that. I don't know.
Well, let's just say if there's an alternate reality where you didn't end up doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing? Or for some reason you couldn't do software development, for example, whatever.
That rules out game development, but that's fair. That would be such a cheap answer. So there was a time, 2 times in fact, where I had 2 very different career paths thought out while I was a teenager. And obviously as a teenager, you think about what you want to do in life, and that rapidly changes. But at one point I got really serious about becoming a chef. I thought you and
me both.
I thought, maybe I should start getting into, I enjoyed cooking, and I was like watching lots of cooking shows, and I was like, maybe this is a cool career path. And then prior to that, I was actually planning on getting into engineering anyway, but for a very different purpose. And that was, I wanted to become like an aviation disaster investigator.
Oh, wow.
Like like when planes crash, sure. I can figure out how to do this. So I was looking at like
very
aviation engineering.
Field, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
A very specific field, and one that isn't used unless there is a disaster. So maybe not a great idea.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, how in demand are you? There's like 3 specialists.
Yeah, exactly. Like how many fucking open jobs are there for this thing that maybe happens once every 5 years? So.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's interesting that you mentioned. I suppose a good touch point or starting point is, what did we want to do when we were growing up? Because at some point you gave it some thoughts. And I wanted to be a vet at one stage.
Interesting. I think you would have been a good vet.
I was like, I like animals. I want to help them get better. And then as I grew up older and older, I was like, I don't want to have to put animals down because that's shit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah.
No,
vets, man. Vets are like one of the jobs out there. Like you get so many jobs that are like thankless jobs, like teachers. They get paid like absolute shit, and we expect them to prepare our next generation of children type thing. Exactly, vets are like the other thing. Like they study just as hard, if not more, than regular doctors. They get paid way, way less. And then on top of it, they, are burdened with, which I guess doctors are as well, but the emotional turmoil that comes with that. So it is a job that is purely done out of passion and this unyielding need to do better by animals and not get paid extremely well for it. So that is my hard no point. I was like, nope. But then I thought, what, let me just think about this some more. What else can I do animal related? And I did at one stage consider being a game ranger until I realized that that is like, I think it'd be a very cool job, but you live very isolated too. I'm like, I've got a big family. I like being near my family. I don't really. Yeah, that's very much you go away for 6 months at a time type of thing.
So And then
But
here
it could
I
have been
am.
cool. I mean, a lot of game rangers do like research on animals as well. You know, they help. You know, it's not just like
Conservation
taking people
efforts.
on game
Yeah,
drives.
for
So
sure.
yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So there you go.
Matthew
Cool.
the Game Ranger. I could picture you in that uniform,
Imagine.
carrying a gun
In my khaki pants.
in your khaki pants, showing off those hairy
With my
knees.
fro comb in my sock. Well, that is just very stereotypical. I'll take that back. Sorry. And we have 2 questions from Keegan Bester underscore Bash, who asks, I always say that, AMD or Intel for 2022? Intel. I don't know.
If you had to ask like right now, if you had to like buy something today, I would say Intel. Because their new chips are really, really good and they are DDR5 and they are, you know, they are the future-proof ones if such a thing even exists anymore.
Yeah.
But by that token, AMD's releasing new chips later this year, so I don't know.
It might, yeah.
I will say though that I love my AMD chip.
Oh.
But I cannot wait to get back to Intel. Now that Intel's actually firing on all cylinders again, there's just certain creature comforts that I miss from Intel.
Yeah.
And I'm keen to get back to them. But yeah, I put it this way. I think it's very hard to buy a bad processor nowadays. I think they're all pretty great. So
there you go. And then last question. What keyboards are you 2 enjoying and how are Sandy's Panda switches doing? Eve Tech sent me a mail with turquoise keycaps on the GMMK Pro and I have an itch I need to scratch. See, this means absolutely nothing to me because I have my beautiful Logitech. I think it's a G1.8, I think. I could be wrong.
No, it's the G9. No, G815. Yeah.
Sorry, G815. Yeah.
The G915 is the wireless version. Of course.
I really love this keyboard. It's
a good keyboard.
As far as mechanical keyboards go, I have no complaints, and it is some good shit. You, on the other hand, have an actual problem with building custom keyboards. So when Keegan mentions Panda keys and stuff, this means absolutely nothing to me. So. Balls in your court.
Pandas are so Glorious made a version of the what is called the Holy Panda switches, which are tactile switches.
That was the best name. Sorry to interject.
I personally thought they were great. I don't like them so much anymore now, and I don't know if that's down to like just QC issues on Glorious's side, but a lot of the keys are failing on me, so it's not ideal. And I will be replacing them soon. But yeah, I've got a GMMK Pro with some nice PVT switches. It's very clean. It's very
nice.
A
hot
it's very
keyboard.
Heavy.
It doesn't look heavy. It's so little. It's like
it's metal. It's like so dense. So this is one I keep at home, and then I've got a separate one, a Key Company Portico 75 percent layout one that I use at work, and that's got banana split linear switches and
who names this stuff?
They're very nice switches. I fucking love them.
You got flipping Panda Bears, banana split linear. Okay.
Oh, dude, there's so much. There's like
oh my god.
There's like the set I want now. Gateron Ink Black switches, which I really want. You get Milkshake Silk switches. So many. I mean, the idea of red, brown, and blue switches from Cherry are just like the fucking bare minimum of knowing like anything in custom keyboards.
Of course,
it's kind of crazy.
If your keyboard doesn't say milkshake silk on the box, or even a keyboard user,
are you even? If you haven't lubed your own your own switches, have you even built your own keyboard?
No.
Listen, I've done that once. I never want to do it again.
Can I tell you, I have
process.
No desire to do that.
It is such a taxing process. Oh my God.
I can imagine, look, you're not selling it because I was going to say, I imagine it's very satisfying. It's like building a model and, you get the sense of accomplishment. You built this keyboard yourself. I have no desire. I like to go into a store, like, give me a Logitech keyboard. Is it mechanical? Yes, cool, I want that one. So, yeah.
I listen, I will 100% agree with you. It's also way, way, way more expensive. But
Doing what you do, yeah.
But there are switches that, like, so the banana split switches I have in my work keyboard, I bought them purely because a lot of people said that the factory lube on them is really good. So they work really well out the box, and I can confirm I haven't opened them up and they feel fucking great.
Serious question when you're done.
Where do you
where do you fall on Nintendo Switches? Would you reckon? Are they well lubed?
Episode 178. Thank you so much for joining
My goodness.
us. No, so you know, you do get ones that are like good out the box and a bit more user friendly. But like building a keyboard is like building a PC. It is an instruction filled, step by step process that is really hard to fuck up. Unless you're doing soldering, which I've never done. I just do hot swap switches, so I can take them in and out as I please. But yeah, it's cool. It's there's a keyboard set I'm looking to buy, a Bakuneku 65. It uses this very interesting like mechanism to kind of mount the tray on it, so it's like very flexible when you type. But just the kit, no switches, no keycaps, is $165.
Good Lord. That is a lot.
And switches will cost you around, depending on what you buy, I mean, they can range in price like quite hectically, but I would say close to about $80 to $100 for the set you need for...
That sounds like a lot.
Maybe less, maybe 60. And then keycaps. The keycaps are where things go fucking obscene. Like,
my goodness.
Like GMK, which is like your premium keycaps, all start at about $180 a set. And that's just plastic. Like, it's just keycaps. The sets I buy are more like $80, which still feels very, very luxurious. But I find that they're a good middle ground.
My goodness.
Custom keyboard game is fun. Like, I enjoy it. But boy, is it expensive. But I can tell you now, I will never buy a pre-built keyboard in my life again, because they are genuinely just like tiers ahead, like in terms of feel, in terms of sound. Like you can't compare. It doesn't even come close. It's ruined me. It's absolutely ruined me.
I'll never say never, but I'll never do that.
I hear someone at work typing on like a standard mechanical keyboard that's like a stalwart one. I'm just like, ugh, it sounds so horrible.
It hurts my soul.
So bad, yeah.
My goodness. Well, there we go. That's all the questions we have this week.
Thank you so much for sending your questions. You can send us questions just like Keegan and Migs did. checkpointchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can also email us, that was the email. You can message us on our social platforms at Checkpoint Chat, pretty much anywhere. So, yeah.
Oh, there you go. Cool. That's episode 178. Ooh, look at us.
Coming at you late on a Sunday evening.
It would be a short episode, but it's still an hour and a half goodie, just about.
Yep.
We went from day to night. That's how long we spoke. Just wait for before. Just
like
before
those cricket games, like a day-night game, day-night podcast.
Just before this episode ends, I need you to look at our cameras and then hard cuts to the opening minutes and notice how the lighting changed. Completely.
Like gradually over time, just changed like really
time lapse this episode.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you have a delightful week going forward. And as always, we'll be back next time here on Checkpoint Chat. Goodbye.
Goodbye.